My name is Carell of the Ventari. I am a senior systems analyst aboard the cargo vessel Quiet Mercy. The title sounds impressive. In reality, it means I stare at blinking lights while hoping nothing explodes. 3 days ago, something exploded. Not dramatically. No fireballs. No heroic music. Just a soft pop inside the engine chamber, followed by the entire ship, making the mechanical equivalent of a tired sigh. Then everything stopped. Our warp drive died. Now, for a Ventari ship floating in the middle of an empty trade corridor, that is not merely inconvenient. That is the cosmic version of being stranded in the desert with a broken wheel. Except the desert is endless space, and the wheel is a reactor that costs more than a small moon. Captain Oren stared at the control panel. Report. I checked the diagnostics again. Then once more, because denial is a powerful coping mechanism. The warp core is offline. Power relays are melted. Navigation systems are half dead. The captain folded his forearms slowly. And the repair drones? I sighed. Also dead. Wonderful. The crew gathered around the bridge console. 7 aliens. 1 broken ship. 0 solutions. First Officer Mayla clicked her mandibles nervously. So we sent a distress call? I shrugged. Sure. Why not? Perhaps someone out there enjoys rescuing idiots who fly through asteroid storms. The captain glared at me. To be fair, the asteroid storm was not technically my fault. I only calculated the route. Mostly correctly. The distress signal went out. Then we waited. 1 hour. 2 hours. 10 hours. Nothing. Space is very quiet when nobody answers. By the second day, the mood on Quiet Mercy had reached what I like to call the silent panic stage. Nobody said the word doomed, but everyone thought it. Maloff finally spoke. No one is coming. Captain Oren rubbed his forehead plates. This trade route is usually busy. Usually, I replied. But right now it appears the galaxy has decided to ignore us. The captain sighed. Keep the signal running. Another 12 hours passed. Then something happened. The communication console beeped. Every head snapped toward the sound. I stared at the screen. Incoming transmission. Unknown vessel. I opened the channel. A voice came through the speakers. A human voice. Hello. Distress signal origin. This is civilian vessel Patchwork Star. Anyone alive over there? The bridge went completely silent. Humans. Now let me explain something important. Humans have a reputation. Not a bad reputation exactly. Just confusing. They build ships that look like they were assembled during a storm, using spare parts and optimism. Their engineers treat safety regulations like polite suggestions. And yet somehow their machines keep working long after logic says they should fall apart. Captain Oren leaned closer to the microphone. This is cargo vessel Quiet Mercy. Our warp core has failed. We are unable to travel. The human voice responded instantly. Got it. Engine failure. I can take a look. I blinked. You can what? Take a look. At the warp core. Yeah. I looked at the captain. The captain looked at me. Mayla whispered. Is that normal? I muted the microphone. Captain, human engineers are unpredictable. He unmuted the channel anyway. Permission granted. 10 minutes later, the human ship appeared on our scanners. It looked exactly how I expected. Terrible. Panels of different colors. Antennas pointing in random directions. Something that looked suspiciously like duct tape holding part of the hull together. The ship docked with our airlock, and the human stepped inside. He was tall, slightly messy brown hair, grease stains on his clothes, a tool bag hanging from one shoulder. He looked around our pristine Ventari corridor and smiled. Nice place. Real clean. Captain Oren greeted him. I'm Captain Oren. The human extended his hand. Name's Luke. Then he glanced at me. And you must be the stressed engineer. I'm not stressed. You have the face of someone who just watched their engine explode. I paused. That is accurate. Luke laughed. Don't worry. Let's go see the damage. We walked to the engine chamber. Luke stepped inside. Then he whistled. Oh wow. That is never a good reaction. I crossed my arms. Yes. The plasma regulators burned out. He crouched beside the reactor casing. Opened a panel. Looked inside. Then he started laughing. Actual laughter. Captain Oren frowned. Is something amusing? Luke wiped his eyes. Oh, this is great. Great. You guys shut down the whole ship because of this. My antenna twitched. The warp core collapsed. Luke shook his head. Nope. He pointed inside the panel. Your fuel injector got stuck. I blinked slowly. What? Luke grabbed a wrench from his bag. Yeah, happens sometimes. He tapped the component twice. Then he kicked the side of the reactor casing. There was a loud clunk. The warp core hummed back to life. Lights across the chamber flickered on. I stared at the control panel. Power levels rising. Navigation systems rebooting. Warp drive stable. Silence filled the room. Captain Orin whispered. That cannot be correct. Luke shrugged. Engineering rule number 1. What rule? If it stops working, hit it. I looked at the reactor, then at the human, then back at the reactor. I had spent 2 days analyzing that system, running diagnostics, studying thermal charts, calculating structural failure probability. The human kicked it, and it worked. Mela leaned toward me. Got. Yes. I think the human just repaired our warp core with violence. He sighed slowly. Yes. Luke slung his tool bag over his shoulder. All right. Engines look good now. Captain Orin spoke carefully. You repaired our ship in less than 1 minute. Luke nodded. Yep. Then he added casually. You guys mind if I check the rest of your systems? I felt a sudden wave of concern. Why? Luke grinned. Because if that injector jammed, he pointed toward the hallway. I guarantee something else is about to break. And for reasons I still cannot explain, that sentence made every instinct in my body scream. Something very strange had just arrived on our ship, and I had a terrible feeling the real problem was only beginning. I have worked with engines for 16 cycles. I have seen plasma leaks, reactor instability, one unfortunate incident involving a cargo drone and a container of explosive algae. But nothing prepared me for a human engineer walking through our ship with the confidence of someone who fully expected disaster. Luke stepped into the main corridor and looked around like a tourist inspecting a historical monument. Nice wiring. That sentence alone caused me concern. Humans do not compliment wiring unless they are about to insult it. Captain Orin cleared his throat. Our systems are maintained according to Vintari engineering standards. Luke nodded politely. Yeah, I can tell. That tone carried the energy of someone who had just discovered a sandwich made entirely of questionable decisions. He opened a wall panel. I immediately protested. You cannot simply open that. Luke leaned inside and stared at the cables. Oh wow. Again, not a good reaction. What? I demanded. He held up 2 wires. Why are these connected backwards? I froze. They're not backwards. Luke raised an eyebrow. Buddy, they absolutely are. Mela leaned closer to inspect the panel. Her antenna curled slowly. Gail. Yes, I believe the human might be correct. I checked the schematics on my tablet. Then I checked them again. Then I felt my internal organs experience embarrassment. The wires were backwards. Luke shook his head gently. Relax. Happens all the time. He flipped the wires into the correct position. Several lights across the hallway suddenly turned green. Captain Orin stared at the ceiling lights. They had been yellow for 3 years. Luke shrugged. Well, now they're not. We continued down the corridor. Luke opened another panel, then another, then another. Every time he found something. Loose connectors, half-burned circuits, a coolant valve that had apparently been leaking slowly for months. At one point, he simply stared at a pipe and laughed for a full 10 seconds. I finally snapped. What is so funny? Luke wiped his eyes. This pipe. What about it? It goes nowhere. I stared at the pipe. It did indeed go nowhere. I checked the original ship blueprint. That pipe had been installed by the manufacturer. Luke tapped it. Decoration, maybe? Captain Orin sighed. I paid 6 million credits for this vessel. Luke gave him a sympathetic look. Yeah, spaceship companies are like that. By the time we reached the life support room, I was experiencing a level of professional humiliation previously unknown to the Vintari species. Luke crouched beside the oxygen recycler. He studied the control display. Then he said something that froze the entire room. Oh, Captain Orin stiffened. What now? Luke pointed at the screen. This filter is about to fail. Mela looked horrified. Fail? Yep. I checked the system timer. The filter had 12 minutes remaining before complete shutdown. Life support would collapse shortly after. The captain's voice dropped to a whisper. Can you repair it? Luke tilted his head. Maybe. He opened the recycler unit, looked inside, then pulled something out of his tool bag. It was tape. I stared at it. That is adhesive tape. Luke nodded. Good observation. You cannot repair a life support system with tape. He ignored me and wrapped the tape around a cracked seal inside the filter chamber. Then he closed the unit and restarted the system. The timer reset. Life support stabilized. Oxygen levels normalized. The entire room stood frozen. Mela whispered quietly. He repaired the oxygen recycler with tape. Captain Oren spoke very slowly. I believe he did. Luke stood up and brushed dust off his hands. All right, that should last another year or two. My brain was beginning to hurt. You solved 3 major mechanical failures in less than 20 minutes. Luke smiled. Engineering is mostly about looking at problems from weird angles. Captain Oren studied him carefully. You answered our distress signal immediately. What? Luke shrugged. I was nearby. Many ships passed this corridor. Yeah, but only you stopped. Luke leaned against the wall and thought for a moment. Then he said something very simple. Space is big. If someone calls for help, you help. The bridge alarm suddenly beeped. I checked my tablet. Captain, report. Multiple vessels approaching. The scanner displayed 6 pirate ships exiting warp. Captain Oren's face, plates, turned pale. Raiders, of course, because apparently our day was not dramatic enough. Mela looked at Luke. We have no weapons. Luke scratched his head. Huh. The pirate ships moved closer. Their leader transmitted a message. Surrender your cargo vessel. Captain Oren whispered to me. We cannot outrun them. I turned to Luke. Your ship, can it fight? Luke laughed. Oh, absolutely not. That was not encouraging. Then he suddenly snapped his fingers. Wait. He looked at me. Guttel. Yes. Your warp engine works now, right? Yes. And those wires I fixed? Yes. And the coolant system? Yes. Luke grinned. Perfect. He ran toward the engine room. I followed him. What are you doing? Luke opened the warp control panel and started adjusting settings. Human engineering trick. What trick? He rerouted power from 3 different systems. Then he increased reactor output beyond recommended limits. My eyes widened. That is extremely unsafe. Luke smiled. Probably. Outside, the pirate ships were preparing to board. Luke finished his adjustments. Then he looked at me. When I say go, hit the warp button. That will overload the drive. Yep. Captain Oren's voice came through the intercom. Boarding ships incoming. Luke raised his hand. Now, I pressed the warp control. The engine screamed. Energy surged through the ship. Then the quiet Mercy vanished into warp faster than any cargo vessel should ever move. Inside the engine chamber, every alarm in existence started screaming. Luke watched the reactor carefully. Then he calmly lowered the power levels. The engine stabilized. Silence returned. I slowly looked at him. You nearly destroyed the ship. Luke nodded. But we escaped. Captain Oren entered the room moments later. His voice trembled. You saved us. Luke shrugged. Just basic engineering. I stared at him. You repaired our ship, fixed our systems, and outran 6 pirate vessels. Luke grinned. Yeah. Then he picked up his tool bag. Anyway, I should get back to my ship. Captain Oren blinked. You are leaving? Luke nodded. Engines are good now. Mela looked confused. You expect nothing in return? Luke thought about it. Then he said, actually, one thing. What? He pointed at the useless pipe. Please remove that pipe. It bothers me. And just like that, the strangest engineer in the galaxy walked back to his messy little ship and left. I watched the patchwork star disappear into the stars. Then I looked at the repaired systems across our vessel. Captain Oren turned toward me. Guttel. Yes, Captain. If the humans ever decide to run the galaxy. He paused. I suspect they will fix it. For the first time in 3 days. I laughed. So what do you think? Was Luke the luckiest engineer in the galaxy or the most dangerous one? Tell me in the comments. And if you enjoyed this HFY story, Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more amazing sci-fi stories.